MarTechTalk, the live webinar with no presentations, no PowerPoint, just talk.
Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever your time zone. Welcome aboard. This is MarTechTalk, and I am your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. We are here today to talk about unlocking the power of AI for better partner ROI. Now, this conversation is, in a way, somewhat of a continuation of our last discussion on MarTechTalk 2 weeks ago, when we explored ways to use AI in marketing communications. And if you've not seen that episode, you've got to go to the MarTech archive and check that out. But today, we're expanding our view to examine how AI can be used for better marketing partner ROI. Now, marketing partners, often referred to as strategic or channel partners, as we know, are external entities with whom we collaborate as partners to promote and sell our products and services. These partnerships can take various forms and are designed to help companies extend their reach, tap into new markets, and drive sales. Naturally, these include folks like resellers and distributors, but also affiliate marketers and influencers and referral partners that may endorse or promote our products or services to their audience in exchange for compensation. Now, these partnerships are important and often represent a large share of the way an organization markets their products. Strategic alliances and co-marketing partners involves partnering with other businesses to promote each other's products and services. These partnerships are perhaps more collaborative and we may share resources or co-create content or engage in joint marketing campaigns. There are other types of partnerships as well. Technology and integration partners work to integrate their products and services with a business's offerings, for example. But overall, marketing partners are chosen based on their ability to reach the desired target audience and their potential to enhance a business's marketing and sales efforts. Effective collaboration within marketing partners with our marketing partners can lead to increased brand exposure, access to new customer segments, and improved sales and revenue. So maximizing partner ROI is important, but the question today is, how do we use AI to do that? In what ways can we unlock better partner ROI with AI, and what are some best practices we should consider? Well, that's what we'll be discussing today with a great panel of guests. But before I introduce our guests, I do want to say that we want to hear from you too. We'd like to encourage everyone attending today to participate. So please join in with your comments in the chat section. And if you have a question along the way for our guests, enter them into the chat feature. That's where I'll be looking, and I will attempt to get some of your questions into the flow of the show today. And we'll have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, let's bring aboard our guest panelists today, starting with Dan Manotz. Dan is the director of Google Ads for Imparter. Dan, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Kevin. Thanks
Hello.
for having me.
Hello, Dan. It's great to have you on board today. Now, Dan is an experienced online marketing expert who has implemented digital advertising strategies for various employers, including Google and Imparter and others. And over the last 5 years, he's specialized in the field of online marketing for channel partners. But the thing about Dan is, unfortunately, he is addicted to chocolate. Dan, are you a dark chocolate or a milk chocolate guy?
Milk chocolates. Yeah, I thought it would be a good opportunity to confess that I'm addicted to chocolate here at this webinar.
That's all right. Chocolateholics Anonymous is for you. I'm a milk chocolate guy too, so you're okay with me. But Dan, thank you for being with us. It's really great to have you on board today. Also joining us is Torkel Oman. Torkel is the CTO of Amanda AI. Torkel, are you with us?
I'm here and glad to be. So, hi.
Hi, Tora. Torkel is the CTO and co-founder of Amanda AI, a company that automates digital marketing with the help of AI. He is also the father of two. That's right, 2 sets of twins. Oh my God, Torkel, that must keep you guys busy.
Yeah,
How did that happen?
Yeah, when 2 people love each other. No, I'm just kidding. No, I usually kid that I have 5 children. I have my real human children, and then I have 1 company, and I don't know
I got you.
which one is more demanding.
I gotcha. Yeah, right. It's all demanding. Well, all right. Well, gentlemen, welcome aboard today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'd like to start by directing our attention to an article published just last week by The Drum called "The 5 Biggest Unresolved Issues Surrounding the Use of AI in Marketing." The author, Webb Wright, asked a number of marketing experts about the biggest AI-related dangers that were weighing on their minds. He asked about what are the most urgent and unresolved issues surrounding using AI in marketing, and he found 5 that stand out in his research. Transparency, content is nearly indistinguishable from that created by human beings. Accuracy, we all have heard about the phenomenon of hallucination, or the ability for AI to produce factually perhaps inaccurate information. Employee morale is a fear that AI will soon make them obsolete. Ownership, we've got to think about ownership. AI is trained using often copyrighted assets and content, perhaps without the owner's consent. And speaking of consent, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Getting or not getting the permission from an individual before using generative AI to represent them in an ad, like, for example, the Tom Hanks kerfuffle of a couple of weeks ago. But my question to you folks, gentlemen, is what is your biggest unresolved issue with the use of AI in your efforts? Torkel, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, so I mean, they're all very sorry, they're all very good points, and there are a lot of things to consider and things to think about when you're using AI. We do something that is called predictive AI, so we have sort of the easy way out. We don't generate any content. We try to predict the future and optimize for optimal outcome. So our challenges are a bit different than what's mentioned in the article, but we are struggling as well in many different areas, and we have struggled over the years on how to implement this. And currently we're struggling with how do you take something so complex, something like a media mix modeling or a prediction or a trend or a seasonality or something like that. How do you take that complex sort of data and visualize that for customers in a way that is understandable and applicable, and that they can make decisions on? Because the machine has so much data, and we want to make sure that our customers also can use that data in other areas than just digital marketing.
With predictive AI, it's all about the data in, right? The data in and the data out. So that must be a challenge.
That is a challenge, and you can't fit models on with less data or with bad data. You get less models you can fit onto it, so you're less certain of certain things. If you have really top-notch data, you have offline data, and you have good tracking, and you have lots of it, then you can be pretty accurate with your prediction on quite many different things, such as impact of holidays or impact of weekends or people getting paid and all that stuff. But it requires data, and it requires accurate data.
All right, Dan, what's your take on this? We talked a little bit about the 5 biggest unresolved issues in using AI for marketing in this article. What's your biggest unresolved issue with the use of AI in your efforts?
Yeah, I think for me, it sort of summarizes all these topics. And I think the main challenge with AI is, of course, that you as a human start to rely on it, right? Also with running marketing campaigns, we leverage AI in a lot of ways. But I've also realized in the last years that human intuition, let's say, in running successful campaigns plays a very key role. And I think the risk with AI is, of course, to completely rely on the algorithms. And I think having a combination with finding the balance of being strategic with campaigns, but still leverage the data from AI to be successful is really key. And that balance is always sort of a journey that you need to find out yourself. And I think a lot of the input that AI can give and the output that we get out of it is really valuable. But not everything is quantifiable, right? Sometimes you have aspects that do play a role in terms of how to run a campaign successful. If you, for example, go to different countries, there are potentially cultural nuances that play a role that that always can be quantified in such a way. So I think for me, main takeaway that I learned around how to, let's say, deal with AI in the best way possible is also to really have that human aspect play a key role in campaigns and try to work with both to be successful.
Interesting. Excuse me. Interesting, the human aspect you mentioned. What's your take on this fear that AI will make marketing professionals obsolete? Is that a possibility?
For me, no, definitely not. I think AI is a great addition. It's a huge, I think, a huge change in for me as a marketer that we have AI in terms of doing optimizations in campaigns. It's a great help. I think you just need to find the right balance. I don't think that humans can be replaced, let's say, because I think with a lot of the customers we work with, we really need to define a good strategy. We need to define it's not just the campaigns, right? It's also the landing pages that we're direct traffic to. We really need to think together about the proposition. But there's always a strategic role that I think humans will play, but I think AI can really help with doing optimizations at scale. And I think finding the balance between both is the key to success.
All right. I really want to understand how we can use AI with our marketing partners and boost that relationship and boost that ROI. I'm a little unclear about how we do that. So maybe you folks can help me. Let's get into our first discussion point today, and that is implementing AI-driven solutions to enhance partner marketing sales. All right, how do I do that? It was my big question. Dan, what's your take on that? What's one thing I should do starting today to really maximize my ROI with my partners using AI?
Yeah, maybe it's good to give you sort of a brief summary of what we do and how, for example, InPartner works together with Torkel on that. So, so what we do as an organization, we've launched a platform together with Google to run campaigns at scale, co-branded for channel partners. But we do this through the manufacturer and through the vendor. So a lot of our customers work with indirect channels partners, right? So they have a lot of partners they work with. All these partners want to potentially run digital campaigns, but typically these are SMB enterprises. They don't have the resources and time to do it themselves. So we found a way of centralizing these efforts through this platform that was co-created with Google. So that's one part of the platform. And then in that world, the channel marketing industry, I've talked to a lot of channel marketers, partner marketers who run what we call MDF programs, so co-op marketing programs, in which they have partners utilize their budget to run marketing campaigns. And they all have the same story, that it's very difficult for them to get adoption from partners because it's still difficult for them to implement these strategies themselves. And that if they want to manage all these campaigns for these partners, it's very difficult for the manufacturer to manage hundreds of campaigns on Google Ads for those partners. So AI plays a key role in that process because it's not just building it at scale, what we can do with our platform. We also need to optimize campaigns at scale. An example of a customer that we work with, for example, Xerox, where we run campaigns for up to 80 partners, and sometimes with Michelin, other customers even up to 300 partners. If you want to really be successful with such a high number of accounts, you really need at the end automation and AI to be successful. And that's where Torkel comes in with Amanda AI. They help us with looking into group level data of these partner accounts, right? So if you run campaigns for 100 partners, we look into the big data behind it and make optimizations through AI based on that group level data instead of diving into all these 100 accounts individually. And that could be bid adjustments based on audiences that are successful in terms of conversions. Could be looking into which keywords are performing the best over all these partners. And therefore, you're able to really scale and accelerate these types of programs. And I think that's really the key in which AI plays a huge role to improve, let's say, partner marketing sales.
All right, Torkel, tell me a little bit about the relationship between Amanda AI and InPartner and how this works for partners like Xerox that Dan mentioned.
Yeah, well, I think Dan described it very well. InPartner has a beautiful platform that enables creation and management of these large campaign sets. And what we specialized in is optimizing, ongoing optimization of digital advertisement. And Google is a part of that. And you sort of have a minimum effort you need per campaign or per account or per reseller or per partner for you to be able to run that campaign efficiently. You need to budget pace. You need to pace your budget throughout the month. You need to evaluate keywords to add the ones who are performing the best and remove the ones who aren't performing. You need to, or you at least you should evaluate audiences and see if dark chocolate lovers or milk chocolate lovers are the best possible audience for you. And to do that on scale, if we're talking about, as Dan said, 80 accounts times 2 or 3 campaigns, or 300 times 3, that becomes too much man hours if you're going to do this manually. So to put that in frameworks and automate it is, I would say, it's the only way you can do these sort of large scale campaigns with any success at all. It's at least my take on it.
Well, Torkel, the scale, the capability to scale to such a high degree, as you mentioned, I mean, you couldn't do this otherwise. So really, AI is really the only way to scale at that level. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right. I think we've had sort of a beautiful progress of how technology has advanced the last couple of years, and with AI we have a democratization of hours basically. You used to tell machines how they did things, and now we can remove the how and just tell them what should they do, what is their objective, and the human part, again, as Dan mentioned, it is the why. The why is, I'm certain that we're going to reach that point somewhere in the future. I think it's way off in the future. I think it's a lot longer timescale than most people say. But currently we still need the why, because that is contextual, and it's based on so many things that are very difficult to get data on and to get reliant data on. So you need both human and machine. But it is kind of amazing the amount of work you can get a machine to do in such a short amount of time.
It's sort of a superhuman capability in a way. It's like superhuman, It gives you a strength or a power that you just couldn't have on your own. Now, Torkel and Dan, both, what are the results now? You implemented these solutions for partners. What have been some of the results in general? Can you tell us a little bit more about the increase in revenue, ROI, that has been found as a result?
I can maybe at least give an example of Xerox, where we started working actually with Amanda AI. So as you mentioned, right, you need to be superhuman to sort of manage 80 accounts. We were trying to do it, so we sort of did it for a while, but then we got in touch with Torkel, and we did a test on a couple of accounts of Xerox just to see how the machine would react, right, and just to really track performance. And that was actually really successful. And then we scaled it to all accounts. And I think main KPI in which we saw a huge improvement is actually the cost per lead that was decreased with 25%. And it was just implementing the solution. And I think that already is a huge improvement, of course, if you can decrease the lead cost with that percentage just by implementing AI. That's one of the results that we've generated with using AI. But we have implemented it for a lot of other customers as well, where we see great successes. And mainly, the main KPIs in which we see improvement is a decrease in cost per lead and an increase in the number of leads, which is at the end the main thing for me to look at as a Google Ads expert. So I think that's always very beneficial if the machine can help us improve those results.
Have there been any resistance to using these solutions? I mean, I don't want to use like AI. Have you gotten some pushback on this?
So much.
Really? So much?
Yeah. A lot less now than sort of 5.5 years ago when we started. then it was extremely skeptical if machines could be able to do this with ChatGPT mainly, but also the other AI tools that has become more common, sort of common knowledge, and people are trying it out and they see the potential in it. It's becoming less and less resistance, and it's building more and more interest. But I think that people who hasn't tried ChatGPT or some similar solution still has the old view of what AI is. It's sort of a Google Translate, or it's an autocorrect, or it's perhaps even the small like gem you had in Word, like hello, can I help you? Like,
right.
so a lot of resistance, yes, but it's getting less, I would say.
I would imagine that the emergence of ChatGPT over the last several months, or the bulk of this year, I guess, has really changed that perception. I know I was resistive until I tried it, and then I found out what a great tool it was and how it helped enable my work.
Yeah,
all
and
right.
I think you can sort of do the comparison to a lot of other tools. Like, even if you don't use AI, automation and machines in general are quite good at their job. You can compete with Excel every day in the week and not stand a chance in sort of looking up tables, or compete against a chess algorithm that isn't self-learning or something like that. So I think that when you sort of grasp that they're also being self-learning, then the horizon becomes so much bigger on what you can do.
All right, we've talked a little bit about the scalability of this approach. I'd like to learn a little bit more about the predictive capabilities and the advantages of using big data from your partner ecosystem as a source for AI. This is point number 2 in our discussion today. Dan, tell me a little bit more about the use of big data from your partner ecosystem as a source for your efforts. How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at 2 aspects, right? So one is the marketing engine that we have up and running, and the other side of it is at the end lead management that you have with partners. So we use big data as a source for both, right? Because sometimes we run campaigns for, as we mentioned, hundreds of partners at the same time. Analyzing that data is already complicated, so we use AI, of course, to get the data in a more easy way. But it's also a great source for AI to start optimizing. So if we look at a campaign, for example, that we run with Michelin, if we have 300 accounts, there's so many learnings in which we can leverage for the whole group of partners. And the benefit of using, let's say, the group level data is that we have accelerate success, right? Because we get, for example, as we mentioned, keywords or audiences or some ads are really performing well over the whole group. We can make decisions a lot quicker. So using big data helps us to do those optimizations with Amanda AI, because we look at the group level data of these campaigns. And on the other end, what we're also testing with is looking into if we push those leads into our lead management system, partners can log in, they can work on the leads, and of course we get data from that as well. If the lead quality is good, or if, for example, we see that leads become deals, we can get deal value. And also, if you have a whole group of partners and look at the big data behind that, we can also accelerate success in pushing that data back to, for example, AI technologies to start optimizing accordingly. So it's not an individual approach per partner. We really look at the group level data. I think that's a very key thing to be successful, is that we look at that overall data points that we both see on marketing end, but also on the sales end within our platform.
Again, this sort of sounds like a superpower. A lot of organizations have a lot of data available to them. They don't always use all of it. Like you mentioned, lead data. I don't. Yeah. You get lead data, but then if you don't capitalize on that lead data or that potential, the effort's gone for naught. So is that an advantage that we didn't have just a year ago or 5 years ago, that is really one of the big ways to make ROI, bring in ROI from using AI with your partners?
Well, I think the benefit of using, let's say, technology together with AI is that you get insights in of course the pipeline with partners, which is a lot of the times a very difficult thing for manufacturers and vendors to really get insights on their pipeline, how they're performing against what they're purchasing. So, and the manufacturer also doesn't always have insights in their customers, right? They work with the dealers or partners, but they don't have end customer data. So using the platform that we offer can help you get that data, and then you can look at it individually, or you can look at the group level data and feed that back into MN AI. And I think that's what changed in the last, let's say, 5 years, is that we can leverage AI technology also to optimize at scale based on that group level data from the different partners within your ecosystem.
And it becomes so much more volume. That's sort of the big thing. If you isolate and you look at one account, perhaps you have 100 euros ad spend a month, and perhaps 100 clicks, let's say. But if you times that 300, you get signals, the same signals on 100 of these 300 accounts. You can still draw a conclusion. Is this a good keyword? Yes or no? Is it a positive or a negative that they are searching from their business laptop? Is it a positive or a negative that they own a house, etc.? And you can do this on so many different aspects or so many different metrics. These matrices becomes huge, and the only way to draw conclusions on that many different metrics is either to have a very large budget, because then you single-handedly get all these clicks and all this information, or you aggregate data across several different accounts. And that, in combination with the partner data, I think that's what make this solution quite beautiful.
Whenever we talk about data, the concern can rise about the protection of that data, and indeed the article that we talked about earlier talked about ownership of assets and content, and whether that's used with or without the owner's consent or permission, maybe even transparency about where that data came from. So how do you protect data in this case to ensure that it is properly protected, and where are the gates, and how are the gates put in place to protect and ensure that we have consent before we use that data?
So talking about the behavioral data that we gather is something that's provided to us from Google, so from Google Analytics or from Google Ads. So they are the owners of that data. We, and in a sense, in partner in this case, is only data processors. So we only do calculation based off anonymized data. So we don't have access to the actual personal information. If there is any personal information or web browser behavior, it is the owner of that property that owns the data, and that goes for all analytics tools. So if you use something other than Google, perhaps you have some server-side tracking, then it is the end customer, the reseller or the partner or the manufacturer in this case, that owns that data, and we only do calculations of it. So nothing is saved that is traceable back to a user, and nothing is used that can be personal data or under those regulations.
All right, we are here today with Dan Manets and Torkel Oman. We're talking about unlocking the power of AI for better partner ROI. If you have a question for Dan or Torkel, please enter that into the Q&A section. That's where we're watching for questions. We will attempt to get some questions here in just a moment. All right, gentlemen, let's move along to our third discussion point today, and that is understanding the impact and the value of AI and partner marketing automation. How do we track the performance and monitor and assess the performance of our marketing campaigns in this case? Can you give us some best practices we should consider? Torkel, you have a thought on that?
So the best practice is, I always say, measure as close to actual business value as possible. So leads or something similar. Sometimes, if it is possible, closed deals, so that you measure leads after they are closed as well, and feed that back. And that is the only measurement. You can have several soft conversions. You can have downloads, and you can have sort of like calculations of downloads. If I get 100 downloads, I get X amount of leads, and you can have a lot of other different soft metrics down the way, but actual leads is the best way to measure it. And I think the measurement is quite simple. It can be analytics can always be as complex as you want it to be, but it can also be quite simple. What is the cost per lead, and is this an efficient channel, yes or no? And I think it's also important to put it in the context. Would this have been leads I would have gotten otherwise? So is it on top leads, or is it something that I can compare one-to-one to another channel? Because if you're not pushing these channels, then you're potentially losing these leads. And then you sort of need to put that into perspective. Is it worth, perhaps, is it worth it, I would say.
I'm curious, what percentage in general, in your experience, gentlemen, what percentage of leads are actually followed up upon? Is that 10%, 1%, 100%?
So you mean by partners are being followed up on, so the leads that we push into our system?
Well, by partners, without, say, this sort of analytical tracking, boosting perhaps the system. In your experience, in general, what percentage of leads are actually followed up on?
Yeah, so that depends a bit on the partner program, of course, because we want partners to be engaged, right? If we're pushing leads to them, we're running campaigns, for example, for Michelin or Xerox or Cisco, where they get leads through our marketing campaigns. We are tracking at the end whether they're following up. It's difficult to put a percentage to it, but I would say that most of the times we have 70% of the partners being engaged in these programs. And then if the 30 are not engaged, we're trying to get them into the platform, make sure that they get the lead notifications, send reminders, to make it as easy as possible to look into it. So that's more or less the percentage that I would say based just on my experience.
So that's one way to keep your partners in line or on track. You can evaluate whether your partners are being effective or not and make some decisions about whether those partners are good for you.
Exactly. Yeah, and that happens as well. Like sometimes we have customers where, yeah, they see that they're investing in the partner gets leads, they invest in marketing, of course, for them, and if they're not engaged and not following up on the leads, yeah, that could be a decision of a vendor or manufacturer to say, okay, they're not part of this program anymore, and we would not qualify them as an engaged partner, which gives them also insight, right? Because typically you're not always aware of what partners do with leads, and this can help you also to keep track. So that's true.
Are there tracking tools or dashboards, specific analytics that I can easily use to measure the ROI accurately?
Yeah, so I always say, like, what we can measure is the moment that somebody clicks on an ad until the moment that the deal was closed by partners. So, and that's also visible in the dashboards. So within those dashboards, you can see the performance per partner. So you can see, for example, the impressions, clicks, leads, like Torko mentioned, cost per lead. But we can even track more, which could be whether they accepted the lead, whether they converted it into a sales opportunity, whether they closed the deal, and then even what the actual deal value was of that deal, which gives you full exposure of the funnel. And I think that's also very unique within the channel, right? Is that this really is a unique way of working with partners in which you support them with marketing, but on that other hand, you also get data back to see how they're performing on that in the program, right? So I think you have full visibility of the success of the program as well.
And Dan, when it comes to understanding the impact and the value of AI and partner marketing automation, tell me a little bit more in the time that we have left about data sharing and analytics. In other words, sharing data and insights with your partners to better enable their decision-making and your decision-making as well. How is that done?
Yeah, I think key element there is to dive into that group level data, right? To see, okay, what is working the best, and then AI in general helps you to collect and consolidate the data and also make the optimizations accordingly. And I think for us, AI plays a key role in order to manage these programs. We used to do it with just our team, and AI really helped us to optimize at scale. So I think it's a necessity actually to be able to be successful in that way.
All right, gentlemen, in the time that we have remaining, I have one last question for you before we get to our action items and any questions that we might have from our audience. But what should marketers, marketing professionals, executives be thinking about today and strategizing for today in order to be prepared for the world in, say, 5 years' time? Dan, do you have a thought on that?
Good question.
What will the world look like in marketing 5 years from now when it comes to using AI? Will it be remarkably different or much the same?
No, I believe that there will be huge progress, of course, and like Torkel was saying in the why, because that's something that I encounter a lot with my customers, is that we still really need to strategize campaigns. So the content, the communication around it, it's still structured by humans, and of course, I think there will be a transition in which AI can play a more important role. But I would prepare myself, since I'm a marketer, to work with AI in the best way possible. And I think that's finding the balance between strategizing campaigns, which could be Google, LinkedIn, Facebook ads, but also, for example, the landing pages behind it, and leverage AI actually to be more efficient in my work as a marketer.
And Torkel, what should we do today to be prepared for the world in 5 years' time?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think that the earlier you try and test and see sort of like the landscape, what is possible now, it's much easier to imagine what will be possible within 5 years. I think that, as Dan said, it will be the why that is important, and all the or most of the mechanical tasks will be automated in one way or another. I think that understanding the capabilities and the possibilities today is the best way to prepare for tomorrow. So if you understand what is possible today, it's much easier to visualize what will be possible within a few years and prepare for that.
Fair enough. All right, Dan and Torkel, we do have a question coming in from our audience today. This one from Alex. Alex, thank you so much for your question today. Alex asks, what are the current trends in data that can be used for a partner marketing campaign? Quickly, do you have a thought on those trends and what we can use for marketing?
So,
go on, Torkel.
No, go on, you.
No, I was just thinking, like, at the end, a key thing for me that drives success is audience data that we can share between both our customer, right? So the manufacturer and the partners itself. So I think getting insights through AI, for example, on high converting audiences, and leverage that data across multiple partner accounts is really beneficial, and it also shown huge success with our campaigns.
Yeah, and I think media mix modeling, since we're talking about the attribution problem with third-party cookies, is trending quite heavily, and also, as Dan mentioned, audience data and using the data. A lot of customers and companies have had a lot of data, but they haven't used it, or they haven't used its full potential. So I think that's something that is currently trending quite a bit.
That's what I get from this conversation. Organizations have a lot of data. This is allowing us to use that data more completely and more powerfully than ever before. Again, sort of a superpower, using data for our advantage and for our perspective and decision making.
Yeah, and many companies sit on years and years and years of data that you can use, that you can just fit this model into.
Yeah. I come from the information management end of the industry, and you can collect all the data you want, you can protect it, you can archive it, but if you don't use it in ways that matter, much of that effort is really for nothing. So I think this conversation has been really powerful for me in that sense, is that AI opens up a superpower to use data in ways that we either didn't or could not do just a few years ago. All right, very good. Well, we are here with Dan Mannotts and Torkel Oman. We've been talking about unlocking the power of AI for better partner ROI. Gentlemen, we have reached the action item round of the program today. I was wondering if you could please provide us with one quick action item that we can use to take advantage of the ideas and advice today. If there's one thing that I can do back at my place of business after this session today, what would that be? And I'll start with you, Torkel. Do you have an action item for us?
Yeah. So my action item would be look up the current possibilities of what is possible today, understand, and if you haven't tried it, test some of the tools out there. Obviously, if you test us, I'm very happy, but also ChatGPT, AutoGPT, Dolly, any of the tools out there. Test it out to get a feel of the power behind it. I would say that is the most important thing you can do currently to stay on top of this game.
All right, very good. Dan, do you have an action item for us today?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with Torko. I think the only way of really learning how you can benefit from it is really testing it, because sometimes when I started this journey, I was also sort of resistant in the way that you think like as a human, you're fully in control of your campaigns and you're a little bit afraid of sort of letting go, right? And Google introduced a lot of automated tactics in the last years in which you're going to be more dependent on their machine, and of course with tools like Amanda. And I think, yeah, just testing it out, seeing it work really opens up your eyes, and I think it can also help you look at campaigns differently. So I would definitely encourage to test it out in campaigns that you run if you're managing campaigns yourself.
All right, great discussion today. We've been with Dan Manotz, Director of Google Ads for Impartner, and Torkel Ullman, CTO of Amanda AI. Dan, Torkel, thank you so much for joining us today. What a great panel today. Your perspectives and advice were super valuable and spot on. Thank you so much. I hope that we get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone joining us here today, thank you too. Join us again next time on October 31st at 1600 British time, when we will talk with another great panel of experts, next time about improving customer experience with generative AI. That should be another great discussion. Meanwhile, if you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there. Check me out, Kevin Crane. And you can check out my weekly audio podcast, Everyday MBA. But for now, that will do it for this episode of MarTech Talk. And until next time, I am Kevin Crane. Thank you all for watching.